2 years ago, Nick and another employee had reached out to me at Turnkey and to ask in assisting in narrowing down some of the data that was in the Excel. So they were approaching some of the Excel reports, looking at them, pining through those, and finding out that the amount of data that they had in the system to date really hindered their ability to run those Excel reports. So going back to what I was saying before on, that you may hit that wall at some point where some of those run extremely long, or they're cumbersome, or just pull too much in the system. So we went through that process of narrowing it down, had some activities on my end, but really my main focus at that time was narrowing down the data set. So I got to see all of the coding and the querying on the back end and making sure that it emulated and returned data, but I didn't get to see the fruits of my labors at that point while I was going through the development efforts and working with them. So then I was on site in Colombia and just happened to be going he took me for a tour through their facility, and as we were walking by, I just noticed on the wall that you guys had some reports projected on the wall within there, and it turns out that those were actually some of the development that had happened from the specific reporting efforts that I went through with them. So it was very neat to see how it had progressed. So what I did was I prompted him at that time that I was probably going to nominate him sometime in the near future, which that near future was now. So it came up a lot sooner, but I asked him to come out because I wanted to, how you can take a project and what prompted it to work, and have him speak to that process and how he worked through. So wanted to invite him out here to kind of give you guys a premise of how he took this reporting project and made it evolve into something that is very efficient for the company, took some legwork ahead of time, but now is extremely beneficial and affects them in such a positive way at this point from start to finish. So, Nick, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and what Battenfeld Technologies is all about.
Okay, thanks. Nick Schilling. I'm the Vice President Controller at Battenfeld. And a lot of people may not have heard of Battenfeld, but if you're a hunter or a shooter, you may have heard of Caldwell or Tipton or Wheeler. Those are some of our consumer brands that are more recognizable. But Battenfeld is a leading manufacturer of shooting, reloading, gunsmithing, and gun cleaning supplies. We're located in Columbia, Missouri. Our business model is we design everything in-house. We outsource manufacturing of that. Most of it overseas. We do some in the States, but a little bit in Europe and mostly the Orient. And then bring it all in and distribute from our warehouse in Columbia. I joined Battenfeld in October of 2012, and in June of 2012, the company was purchased by a private equity firm, and then I joined shortly after that. And this past December, the private equity firm, or about a year ago at this point, told us they wanted to accelerate their exit plan, and this past December we were purchased by Smith & Wesson. So now we're part of a publicly traded company. A lot of our reporting requirements are changing quite a bit. A lot of SOX compliance is having to change as well. So there's been lots of changes, and Turnkey has been an important part of that, really, for way before I was there, as far as helping us to continue to grow. So in the last 3 to 5 years, we've doubled in size in sales and employees. And last July, we moved into a new facility, which was double the square footage. So we've doubled everything. I think we've probably quadrupled our data, but we doubled everything else. We have about 800 active SKUs. We have a lot more than that, but those are primarily the active SKUs. Approximately 2,000 customers, with a lot more ship tos than that, but that's the number of customers that we have. And that's all. That's flexible. But a couple of years ago, I went to Convergence in 2013 and sat through a presentation much like this, some of these techie stuff that's like, oh wow, that'd be really cool. How can we do that? Or you go to one of these and you think, oh, think the same thing, and we never had time to get stuff like that done. But we wanted to have a dashboard. We wanted to know where we were every day, what our sales were by customer, by item, what our profitability was by customer, by item, by day, month to date, year to date, compared to budget, compared to a forecast, someplace where that was easy to get to without running 10 different smart list reports. It would take you all day, and if you ask two people to do it, they would do it two different ways and get you two different answers. So that's when we called Sean and said, hey, we need to figure this out. So.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's. So thanks for the introduction, and then let's go ahead and let's talk about what you've titled as your daily dashboard in the system and the benefits that you have with this. So.
Yeah, our daily dashboard, and this is stripped down, by the way, sorry. It's a lot more meaningful when you see names and things like that on there and numbers, but those were all taken off, so you can't really tell what it is. And don't be alarmed by June. As a CFO, I was like, what's wrong with that? But we just implemented a new warehouse management system on June, or I guess 2 weeks ago. And so we've kind of been down for a period of time, and now we're getting back in swing. So June otherwise would be really scary, and that's something that this daily dashboard would tell me right away. But again, this it's a 2-page dashboard, and it really focuses on our monthly sales. So that the top chart is each month's sales compared to a budget, and then after a quarter we'll have a new forecast, and then we'll throw a forecast column in there, and then the chart to the right just lists out by month, and the blue line catches up to the red line by the end of the year and passes it usually. That's what we hope anyway. And the next set is our sales by customers, and we just look at our top 10 customers year to date, month to date, and then there's the month to date margin, and then there's a column on the margin for what the margin was a year ago and what the margin is in total. So that's the first page, and then the second page shows month to date data by customer, and then it goes through the same thing, and then our daily sales, and then a couple of key balance sheet accounts, and those we do plug in manually. We don't pull those in, but they're easy enough to pull in. And then we look at our open order report, and so those are orders that are scheduled to ship at some time in the future. Once in a while, there's some that were scheduled to ship in the past, but we catch up on those. So that tells us then what you can easily quickly look at is, okay, what are our open orders that are scheduled to ship still in the month of June? What were our sales that have already shipped, and where we're going to end up the month compared to our budget? So every day we can track that, and pretty early in the month know if there's going to be an issue in reaching our budget or not. And also in terms of margin, if there's an issue that might be causing any margin erosion, if we sold 10,000 of something at a lower than normal margin, that's going to show up, and we'll know why, but it'll be obvious when we look at the dashboard. And then these 2 pages now, initially we were emailing that out to a distribution list. Now we have it on our intranet. And so those people that have access can just go right to the internet, pull it up. And we also have some of the data and some other KPIs that we have on the monitors that you saw when we were walking around in our break room, just so other employees can kind of know on where we're tracking.
Yeah, it was neat to have that visual as I was walking through there to kind of see where the position was for the day and things of that sort. But the big picture of this is that now it's on your intranet, so users don't have to ask for it. They can go and ping against this reporting solution anytime that they want. There's no, hey, can you send this to me? Can you look at this? Can you put together this data for me and send it over? You've effectively gone through and deployed it into this internal website where users can go and grab that data anytime they want, have it as a favorite on their Internet Explorer, and go ping it anytime that they want. So that was it, and that was your main push for being able to deploy this is that you needed that clean set of data, that one defined source of information that individuals could go to. There weren't multiple people getting to it, something that was quick and clean and easy to get to and to work with. So that was the idea and the premise behind going through it. So in all of this, I myself kind of know how long it took on my part to help you guys out. I think we spanned maybe a month altogether in our efforts and everything like that. But overall, how much time did you spend in the discovery process, start to finish, before the final product, what we're seeing here today? As I know it's constantly evolving, probably, but
it is constantly evolving. But I think initially the discovery process was running a bunch of Excel or smart list reports, and okay, this is taking forever. And then it finally runs, and I got to dump it to Excel, and it takes forever again. So a couple months of that. But really, it was sitting at Convergence at one of these seminars thinking, have to get this done. And I think from the time that we called you, actually, I went back to my old emails and checked it out. But I think when we first contacted you, it was August 13th of 2013, and about 6 weeks later, we were publishing our dashboard. And then it's evolved somewhat since then, with the most recent stop emailing a PDF of it every day. And we just send an email still, but it's just to tell them that, hey, go to the internet, and one of these days we'll stop sending that email too, but we're still doing that. But I thought too, just, you were talking about earlier about paring down the data. That's what made it possible. Because, I think what we did is we showed you all the various smart lists that we were running, and kind of a picture of what we wanted it to look like, and you took it from there. But on the next slides, there's so there were 5 different refreshable Excel reports. These have been cleansed a little bit too. But so we had our daily sales by item, so that was pretty narrowed down. But I just looked at this yesterday, and there's 150,000 lines of data in that one. And when we go to refresh this every day, it takes, I don't know, maybe half a minute. And you think about how long that would take to run a 150,000 line smart list. You could filter it out and all that, but it's a lot of data that it crunches through pretty quickly. And the second one is the month to date sales by item. So we have the daily. This one is month to date. Again, this was another 110,000 lines of data, and this gives us the information that we wanted to report off of on the items. So the item number, the item class. We have a field that we mapped to our year of introduction and to the brand. And so now with this data, we can pivot off of this and say, okay, what were sales by brand, by month, by year, and that takes a minute, as before it would have taken who knows how long in a smart list. So this is not only does this feed the dashboard, but it's readily available data to use for lots of other purposes and budgeting. And I know in the sales process that we went through when the company's being sold, we were constantly hit with questions with zero time to turn it around, and because this data existed in that format that it did, we were able to do it. So the next one was the receivable transactions report, and that's driven by the document number, so all the SOP document numbers, and by document date. So again, that's tons of data that just comes really fast. Then there's the year-to-date sales by customer, and it shows if there's any returns, any sales this year and last year. So we have a quick comparison from current year to prior year. And then the last one is the year-to-date sales by item. So with those 5 refreshable Excel reports that, like you said, were pared down, it literally takes a couple minutes to do a data refresh on those each morning. Then the next step for us is once those are refreshed, they feed a series of pivot tables. It's all in one big file, one big Excel report. And then once those pivot tables then tie to a summary page, which then the charts that we saw on those first 2 slides are driven off of there. So it's, it takes a little bit of manual manipulation every day, but not a lot. And once we are in the routine of doing it and doing this very regularly, it goes pretty quick.
So then the benefits the report provides to the company, it's the ease of access, the speed that it's added to being able to find this data on a daily basis. You said, manual activities every day. Summarize, how much time do you think it takes just for the manual activities to update those? So 30 minutes compared to...
If I do it, it takes about an hour.
Okay. So, yeah. But, an hour as compared to pining for this data, and it was probably a weekly activity to get all of this. It was more of a week-to-date or month-to-date, maybe in some cases on certain ones, but mostly probably not something that you'd be able to attain at the beginning of a day from previous day activity. And a lot of people are working that way where they're a day behind or something, so they're seeing, a day back just because all of the stuff isn't able to be mined out in a quick manner. So decision-making process and everything like that, how has it improved up to this point with the report? Has it increased certain areas? You could focus certain areas that needed it better than others. Just the other day, I know that or whenever I was there on site, somebody must have been monitoring it because he knew where your numbers were for the day, and then you had an individual come in and say that they were getting all these things out, so now you knew your numbers were going to be where they needed to go. So it was just a little bit of a description how it's helped drive certain decision points and different activities within the company.
You must have been in the last week of the month. And actually, that's probably when we pay the most attention to the dashboard, is that last week of the month when we can still pull strings to make the month, and knowing what orders or what customer hasn't placed an order yet that we know they always place an order on Monday. Has that order come in yet? No. How big was the order last week or the week before? So with this now we can predict pretty closely what we know we're going to have to get out the door in the last week of the month, and it also helps us. We have temporary help in the warehouse doing distribution, so it helps us with resource planning as far as that's concerned. So especially during that last week of the month, where we can look at and say, yep, we're going to have to work a ton of overtime, get all your temps in, or else it's no overtime. We're not going to need extra temps. We know that now a lot better than we did before. But back to the first one there, and it is one version of the truth, because before, if you asked one person, hey, what are sales to date? And if you ask someone in the sales department, you're going to get one number, and if you ask someone in the accounting department, you're going to get the real number. And then that's usually how it was, and we never really knew exactly what our number was, and this helps a ton. And then having the open orders and monitoring those open orders, and with the requested ship dates that are on each of those orders, we run our open order report by requested ship date, and then look at some of those customers, they give us a 3-day window or maybe a 5-day window that, okay, if we had an order scheduled to ship on August 1st and that was the last day of the window, we might ship it on July 28th if it made a difference for the month of July. So there's decisions like that are made, particularly as we get to the end of each month. And then like I mentioned earlier too, just the fast access to the data. Before, if someone had an ad hoc request, I think, okay, now what smart list do I need to run to do that? I just go to these now, and it's usually there, because this gets down to the invoice line item detail. So it's every line item of every invoice for however far back I want to go, and it gives the sales, what it sold for on that line item. If there was a markdown, it'll show that, what the cost was, so I can get a contribution from that at the invoice line item detail, which is a tremendous amount of detail. And you can really build up from there. And then, like I said, we could throw in, looking at it by brand, looking at it by year introduction, and it's just all, now it's at our fingertips.
Well, Nick, I definitely appreciate the time that you've spent with us today, traveling from Columbia in this beautiful weather that everybody's been experiencing up to this point. At this stopping point in the session, is there any type of insight that you can provide to anybody that's in attendance today, additional steps, anything that they should maybe consider, look at, or prompt them into this specific activity that you can think of?
Yeah, you guys have these little business cards with your website on it. I use it all the time. No, but I think to your question, I'm not a techie. I'm just an accountant. And I think we have good ideas of what we want and what data we want, and there's never enough time to do it. And I think for the last however many years, that's when we've called Turnkey to do it for us. And this wasn't a plug, this wasn't planned, but that's how we got it done. If I had to try to do that on my own, we would still be trying to get together a dashboard. So I would start with what you want, and then if you don't have the resources internally to do it, reach out, because I think then it saves everybody time. There's a lot more time to do more important work.